Hi, I'm Terry Murphy, founder of the Women's Wisdom Network and senior editor for Realty Times, Women in Business, Women in Real Estate, and In the Men's Room with Murph. But today we are definitely with a superpower woman. She is Karyn Buxman. She's a TEDx speaker, successful author, married well, by the way, an accomplished coach, and a neuro humorist. And that's called Living at the Intersection of Humor and the Brain. That is a serious certification. She's the only one in the world. As the global expert in strategic humor for business, she helps high performers go from great, get this, to world class. Her upcoming book is Funny Means Money, and it better come out soon because we all need it. Welcome, Karyn Buxman.
Woo, and the crowd goes wild. And I know what they're all thinking. Oh God, Terry, another neuro humorist.
I don't think that's going to be quite the case. First of all, right now, Karyn, at this moment in time, do we not need laughter? I mean, like, OMG.
OMG is right. Oh my gosh. There is such a demand for it right now. And you throw in the trauma and the drama and pandemics and elections and a few murder hornets. It's like, oh my gosh. Yes, we definitely need to be laughing more.
You actually, in your TED Talk, which is exquisitely good, if you've ever given a TED Talk, you know that it's like being on fire for 17 minutes, on freaking fire. I mean, full flames. You cannot believe that 17 minutes is that long. It is, the responsibility is huge, and you knocked it out of the park. Now, it's unfortunate for the rest of us that you have a husband. We'll just talk about him. Not that you have a husband, but his name is Greg. I mean, for me, it might be that.
Fortunate that you have a husband.
But not for you. But Greg is the author of 1,001 Ways to Be Romantic, and he is adorable. But he's also was your coach in that. And I want to bring that to the point that wordsmithing and collective intellect really helped you hone that thing. It is brilliant. And you open it with the power of the giggle. Now, I want you to tell us what happened in that moment on stage.
Well, I want you to know that I ran this concept of how I was going to open the TED Talk past a number of my esteemed peers, and the majority of them said, yeah, don't do that. And, because it was either going to really, really work well, or it could have just fallen flat. But I just really felt in my core that, get everybody's advice and then do what you got to do. And I thought, well, if it doesn't go well, maybe someday somebody will ask me to do another one. But it worked great. It was really the response that I was expecting, because one of the things that I know that we can harness in the brain is the mirror neurons. And we see someone smile, we start smiling. We hear someone laugh, we start laughing. We don't even know why they're smiling or laughing, but our brain's just like, oh, I got to get me some of that.
Well, that's what happened. You walked out on stage, and with that perfect little giggle and those curls, you just went out there and started giggling, and the entire audience started to giggle. And I have to tell you that is one of the most engaging ways to engage an audience. And as you know, TED Talk audiences are pretty large, so that was a significant courage thing. But you talk about how humor is something that actually happens in the brain. It has the power, you said, to heal, the power to influence, the power to connect, and the power to enlighten. Now, we know from neurolinguistics that it interrupts a pattern, because people are writing a story almost all the time about what they're seeing or what they're feeling until something happens in the brain. And you are the expert at that. Tell us a little bit about why humor is such power.
Well, humor is a whole brain activity. And we knew that for quite a few years, but now what we know, because of the digital technology that we have, is that this whole brain activity occurring in the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system, the occipital lobe, all of this all over, also now creates a gamma wave pattern that we see very much like we do in deep mindfulness and deep meditation. People who are in the flow, in the state, this primo like being creative and just in the zone. And so we can harness that. And our brains, the more I learn about this, just the more I'm so psyched about this, Terry, because what we understand now is that whenever our brain is feeling under threat, because the brain's number one job is to protect us. It's like, I'm going to keep you alive, Terry. I'm going to keep you from eating that food that was sitting out all night and spoiled, or that car that's speeding toward you too fast, or that hot burner. The brain is constantly seeking threat, and that can come in all sorts of forms. But of course, right now we're getting a barrage of that with the news and the global climate and the elections and the pandemic. And our brains, it's as if they're on fire. We are getting this constant cascade of neurotransmitters creating adrenaline and norepinephrine and cortisol and all of this. And it's like no wonder we're so feeling under pressure and under such stress. But the great news is that what we're finding is that humor is the antithesis of that. We see now and measure that we have this opposite effect with the cascade of neurotransmitters, things that are lowering the adrenaline and epinephrine and lowering the cortisol, which is a horrible thing in our body, which creates tons of inflammation and lots of disease processes.
Not to mention fat.
Fat, you hang on to your fat.
You hang on to it, kids. It's not your fault. Eat the cookie anyway. Go ahead.
It is true that you can laugh your way to more money, better sex, and thinner thighs, but that's a different conversation than the one we're having today. But the fact is also that it releases oxytocin, which makes us feel closer to one another. And in this time of where everybody's feeling so disconnected, it's no wonder that a lot of people have discovered that humor is a wonderful, wonderful, powerful way to reconnect and to connect to people that you want to feel closer to.
Well, it does bridge the gap. And one of the sad parts about the issues that we're facing today is the one universal thing that we have is a smile. And we've had to cover that. But that's universal. That is absolutely universal. But you do talk about that. And here's what was interesting. And this is how you hook the audience. You said, after laughing for a few minutes altogether, you said, you are now healthier. Mm-hmm. Than you were when I walked on stage. And so you know that there are actually some physiological changes that happen with humor. Talk to us about that. Blood pressure, what else?
Every single body system we find is affected. We recognize that for a long time under the science of psychoneuroimmunology, spelled just like it sounds, we know that every single system, the muscular skeletal system, the respiratory system, the cardiovascular system, every system in our body, these are negatively affected. But when we look system by system by system, we find what amazing, powerful benefits. We find with respiratory system, we're breathing deep, we're getting well oxygenated. With our cardiovascular system, this is actually when you are laughing, this is a cardiovascular aerobic exercise. Your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, you get red, you get warm, you start taking off your clothes if you're laughing and laughing and laughing. Well, not all of your clothes, but maybe your jacket or your sweater. Yeah. And my colleague who was one of the just pioneers in this field, who passed away a couple of years ago, Dr. Bill Fry, found that when we were laughing, and the original study was for adults over 50, but I think it's safe to generalize this, that when we are laughing, that we are experiencing the same aerobic activity as if we were rowing. He said 2 minutes of belly laughter was the equivalent of 10 minutes on a rowing machine. And Terry, I don't know if that's significant for you, because I know you're really buff, but for me, and my expensive sweater hanger that has my sweaters and clothes hanging on, I'm pretty happy about this. So, but what happens also is that the blood pressure goes up, the heart rate goes up, but once we stop laughing, it comes down and even below baseline, which is why people like Dr. Michael Miller, who's a very esteemed cardiologist in the Baltimore area, actually recommends humor for his heart patients. He also did a study, and this may get a little bit specific for some of your listeners, but hang in here with me. He found that the epithelial lining of blood vessels actually got more elastic with those who experienced humor. So what this means is that when the elasticity increases on the inside of your blood vessels, it helps lower the blood pressure. It makes your blood vessels healthier, and also the lower cortisol. The reason you lay plaque in your blood vessels is because of inflammation in your body. And so if you're not having that inflammation, less cortisol, less need for your body to coat those arteries. So, I mean, and that's just the cardiovascular system. And then we look at the immune system, the fact that we stack short-term, mid-range, long-term benefits in the immune system. Muscle skeletal, though, my favorite. Terry, have you ever had a day where you had tight neck, tight shoulders, tight jaws, tight
Every day.
white knuckle grip of the steering wheel? And the way our bodies are designed, this is amazing, because when we laugh, initially we tense up, but the way our muscles are designed is that after that initial phase of humor, we go into a state of relaxation. And this is, have you ever laughed so hard that like you had to lean over and hang on to a desk or hang on to a chair? That's because your stomach muscles were loosening. But this actually happens all over your body, which quite truthfully, in extremes could be detrimental. I don't know if you've ever laughed so hard that it was detrimental. I know. It depends.
It depends. Keyword. Well, the thing is about laughter is and we were just talking about this. I interviewed Jason Hewlett day before yesterday, and he's just a whack job. He's so funny. And I mean, after we got done, my face was sore from smiling and laughing so hard. He's just, I mean, people want to be near people that make them feel good. And that release of that oxytocin is one of the reasons that we're highly attractive. Nobody says, hey, I want to go hang with that cranky pants over there in the corner. I mean, we look for this, especially if you have, for too many of us, they focus on what's wrong as opposed to what's good. And babies, there's studies with babies. If you smile at a baby, the baby just immediately responds. Babies that have that get no response from the adult will look away, and they will not thrive. So laughing really hard, which makes your face all bad, because you're thinking about all the wrinkles, and you're starting to tear up because you're laughing so hard, and your makeup is ruined, but you feel so good.
I want to just comment on something you said that you reminded me was like, this is how much we are meant to laugh. Our brains are hardwired, and they know that because babies who have been born deaf and blind, they still laugh. We are meant to laugh. We are hardwired to laugh. And yet we're socialized not to, be quiet, don't get out of your seat, quit laughing, wipe that smile off your face, quit goofing off. And yet, whether you're looking for a leader or a lover, the top traits we look for are sense of humor.
Almost every time. Almost every time.
Leaders, Cialdini, one of the main principles of influence, likability. People are drawn to somebody. It's like a magnetic kind of personality, charismatic, when people are seen as having a sense of humor and being seen as funny. And what a lot of people, and particularly leaders, get nervous about is like, oh, but I'm not funny. What if nobody laughs? And the thing is that you can leverage humor to your advantage, even if you're not funny. You don't really have to tell jokes. You don't really have to be funny. But what I have found is that if you immerse yourself in humor, you tend to naturally become funnier. You and I both have spent way more years than we want to admit speaking on stage. And I had a gentleman come up to me one time and afterwards, and he goes, oh my gosh, have you always been so funny? And I was like, I never thought about it. Yeah, I guess so. And later, a few months later, I saw my mom and I was like, hey mom, was I always funny? And she looked at me and she kind of cocked her head and she went, no. I was like, what? And she said, you were the one with the sunny disposition. And at first, it kind of hurt my feelings. I was like, you don't think I was funny? But later, I got excited because then I realized the fact that I knew how powerful humor was, that I was willing to immerse myself in it, willing to step out of my comfort zone, willing to experience it on a daily basis, I became naturally funny, or at least some people think I'm naturally funny.
Let me help you with that. You are totally naturally funny, but you just made a comment, and I want to make a distinction there, especially if people are presenting to other people, regardless of how. But there is a distinction between humor, jokes, and wit.
Yes.
Why don't you speak to that? Because you are the expert.
Well, and here's something else that's kind of a little bit of this mixed that we'll stumble into, and that is that people automatically assume that humor is comedy or humor is entertainment, and that is one of the purposes. If you're an entertainer, you're a comedian, your purpose is to entertain people for no other reason, just to get them to laugh, and you will do it at any expense with any kind of phrase or joke or saying. But for other people, the other two purposes that I've identified are influence, persuading, informing, motivating, inspiring people, or well-being, which is your health and your resilience and your spirituality. And so while jokes can be entertaining, I think that if you kind of separate that, because the purpose of a joke is merely to entertain. What if you want to, and sometimes people will connect, but not necessarily. I don't feel like after I go to see a stand-up comedian that I want to bond with him or have his baby. It's like, however, I met my husband at the time, and I felt like Jessica Rabbit. He makes me laugh. I loved that about him. He stretched my brain. He's incredibly smart. He's incredibly romantic. But I tell you what, the thing that sealed the deal was he could make me laugh.
Yes, he
And to
could.
be
And he knows what
able,
makes you laugh, by the way.
yes,
And when
yes. And
when
that
he
is
gets you
so important.
started, you can't stop laughing because
We
we
can't
saw that.
stop. Oh my gosh. Well, once we get started, I mean, there's been times, and it's so wonderful when these do happen, but where you start and you can't stop, and it's like your eyes are leaking, you've got your legs crossed, your sides hurt, your face hurts, you're gasping, you're saying, stop, stop. I eventually, I said, we got to go in other rooms, so we can't, because we couldn't even breathe. And then as soon as we walk back in, we see each other and go, and it starts all over again. But can you remember a time where you laughed that hard, that belly laugh for like 2 minutes? And like you said, you feel like a limp dish rag. And
Yes.
that's because it is such a catharsis and such a wonderful feeling. And so, people mistakenly think, oh, to be funny, I have to tell a joke. But why not instead explore the things that are commonalities? And, I have an exercise that I do called Funny You Should Say That. And it's all about this exploration of, describe the funniest person in your family, describe the funniest thing that ever happened to you in school. What's the funniest thing that ever happened to you involving food? I mean, it's through these kind of bizarre, humorous things that we share that we find those shared experiences. And there's a number of studies that show that especially couples, partners who have shared humor rate themselves so much higher in terms of the strength of their relationship. And so it really is something that's a powerful, powerful tool that people happen upon by chance, but they've never really thought about the intentionality. What would happen if I use this by choice? What if I could get me more of this because I'm doing more of this? And that's, I think, the piece that is missing today. There's no reason why any of us who are subjected to this daily barrage of negativity, there's not a single reason why we can't give ourselves a break of anywhere from 30 seconds to 30 minutes a day to experience some humor. It's your choice. And a lot of some people will push back and they'll say, oh, but you don't understand, there's nothing funny happening in my life. And I'm here to tell you that if that's your belief, that is your reality.
Sure, that's all you're going to focus on.
That's, what you get more of what you pay attention to. But I'm also here to tell you that it's not the humor that disappears. What's missing is your alignment to it. Once you open yourself up to the possibilities, there's going to be something humorous. And humor is in the most painful of situations. Have you ever attended a loved one's funeral or been around afterwards where you're telling stories about your loved one and you're laughing? I had the gift of being able to do both of my parents' eulogies. This is a kind of a funny story, a little twisted, but you and I are twisted. I was asked to do my mother's eulogy by my family. And I said, dance with the girl that brung you, because I did it. And I shared all stories that I knew would make everyone in that sitting would laugh about. They were the stories that we wanted to remember. That's the way my mother wanted to be remembered. That was the things that made us laugh until we cried. And after the funeral was over, my dad ran up and he gave me the biggest hug and he said, oh, Karyn Lynn, I can't wait for you to do my eulogy. It was like,
which is also funny.
I get what you're saying. Let's don't rush. But But what a great gift. But humor can be found in any situation. It's your openness to it. It's your alignment with it. It's your desire to alignment with it, to line up with it. And so much of our humor as adults comes from pain and discomfort, because we're not laughing about having a great hair day. We're not laughing about, how sexy we are with, not gaining the COVID-19 pounds and all of that jazz. But we're laughing about the things that make us crazy. We're laughing about the things that are painful. And when we can laugh about it is when we have the emotional distance. Because when my mom was going through Alzheimer's, she said to me, I'm so grateful that I learned from you how to laugh. She goes, I'm not laughing all the time, but I'm not crying all the time. And then she said, but your father's not there yet. And what we understood was that while she had had an acceptance of her fate, he had not. And it was too painful for him to laugh about the situation she was in. We could laugh about other things, and we did through distraction and other kinds of means. But she could actually laugh about her situation. And Terry, you know what this did? This gave her power. It empowered her over her Alzheimer's. Her Alzheimer's didn't have her, she had Alzheimer's. And the fact that she could laugh about the fact that she invited us all over for dinner but forgot to turn the stove on, or the mystery meals we began having. It's like, is there something missing from this dish, or is there something extra in it? Was I coming into the room or was I leaving the room? I'm in the doorway. I don't know which way I was going. Once she could laugh about these things, she had power over her situation. She was no longer disempowered. She was empowered. And I want to see people take that and empower themselves in all sorts of situations. You have that choice.
I want you to tell a story. You talk about the countdown in your TED Talk about how humor has been around forever,
Yeah.
and how it can break tension and totally create openness to move strategically forward. So if you're watching this and you're going, oh, well, I'd like to be more funny, or I know people that are funny. Like you said, a comedian is there to entertain. A humorist brings it to another whole level of intentionality. And I think relevance. I think relevance is a real important factor of that. But you talk about, I wanted to not miss that you said in the 70s, Norman Cousins used comedies to help people with heart issues. And then you talked about Patch Adams, which everybody glowingly remembers, and how they all thought he was a whack job, but it worked. And he was a whack job, but he was a fun whack job.
Yes. He's very eccentric. Very eccentric. And Robin Williams was the perfect person to play him. The first time I met Patch Adams and we shared a stage, here's a gentleman with, this long silver ponytail, but streaks of blue and pink in his hair long before this was even the fad, and this big handlebar mustache, and a miniature fork in one ear and spoon in the other. It's like, what are you bringing your own utensils, and clown pants. And it's like, this is not what you expect when you see a physician. And at one moment he's quoting poetry, and then he's talking politics, and then he's saying something incredibly hysterical to make you laugh. And he just is, he's such an eccentric person, but is somebody who really did help, in addition to the other leaders and pioneers in the field, to bring humor to the forefront, that yes, we could use this purposefully and intentionally and therapeutically to help other people.
Yeah. And you mentioned something in your husband, who wrote 1001 Ways to Be Romantic. And that book has been around for a while, and he is so creative. Honest to God, if you have a husband in training, you need to get him this book for the holiday. And he is adorable. And the two of you together just recently did something for Invisible Disabilities, where you did a Harry Met Sally kind of a thing. And it's 36 minutes of pure fun. But it does impart tactical things on how to be aware and how to laugh at things, and how you have inside jokes with each other. And that, again, speaks to relevance and why it's not a joke. It's not, a chicken walks into a bar kind of thing, which we know. I know that you were one of only 53 women in the National Speakers Association to get the National Speakers Award Hall of Fame. We know that is awesome.
Thank you.
tell us what's going to happen in your new book, Humor. Funny Means Money, Strategic Humor for Influence and World Domination.
And world domination. Yes. This is something that I am so excited about because this is something that I've been researching for 30 years, but in the last several years have done just a tremendous deep dive. And some of the new tools and processes that I have uncovered and put together for people so that they can intentionally use this. For instance, I've developed an assessment, and there's been humor assessments around for years and years and years. But what they've always looked at is, what is your sense of humor? Where this particular tool is designed to not only measure your appreciation or sense of humor, but how well are you applying it? How often are you applying it? Because, it's like Peter Parker's uncle. He was like, with great power comes great responsibility. I mean, you have to apply what you know. It's not doing any good in your head. If somebody's having a heart attack on the street and I run up to them and say, I know how to do CPR. Yeah, that person's going to die. But you have to apply what you know. And so this is one of the things. I've uncovered 7 competencies of humor. And with these 7 things, if you understand and embrace these 7 competencies, you are going to crush it. If you don't, now I can help you uncover why your humor isn't working, whether that's, HR in the workplace, or whether that's, on stage, or whether it's in your relationship. We're going to look at rapport. We're going to look at the context of where you share your humor. How authentic is it? How safe is it? Because humor, I used to think of humor being hurtful maybe in pranks, but it can also be hurtful in terms of bullying, put down. I mean, have you ever had somebody just hit you with something very painful and then say something like, I'm joking? It's like, if they say that, they're not
Yeah.
joking.
All behavior has meaning. Yeah.
Yes. Another competency is distance. What is the physical and temporal distance, which makes up emotional distance? If that's when we can find something that's funny. What are the actual words and that you're using, and then what is your actual delivery form? And so all of those 7 competencies looked at together, we can now quantify why humor works, and when it doesn't work, how we can fix it, how we can improve it. I've identified 10 habits of high performers who really grasp this, get this, and take it to the next level. I've developed a humor constellation on showing you how to recognize your humor strengths and work on those, and maybe include a few that you haven't really thought about. I've identified a high performance humor assessment that again looks through those 7 competencies and quantifies them digitally. We can numerically figure out things, and created a strategic action plan on how you take a desired outcome and then intentionally go through the process of making that happen with the help of humor. And so all of these things combined, we're now creating a field of humor management. This is a field where we've never attempted this before.
Humor management.
Yeah, that we're bringing this to the forefront, and I'm so excited to be able to bring this to people.
Well, here's the thing. It all comes back to the same thing. We communicate with words, which means different things to different people. And if you've ever, and I know you've spoken in Malaysia and all kinds of incredible places where locally the colloquialisms don't transfer.
Right.
And so, and there's gender issues, generational dynamics, there's body language, there's all kinds of things that contribute to what somebody processes. But at the end of the day, what I love about humor is that it connects people. It creates an aha in the brain that makes them stop, makes them feel good, and makes them attracted to you,
Right.
or attracted to their attention, whichever. And I have to say that that's what's the joy in the moment, is to know that you've left someone in a better place. You've actually contributed to their health, to their enjoyment, to their appreciation for the obvious, or something that's silly. I prefer that if there is humor, if there's going to be a victim, it's usually me.
Yeah.
Because people will they can identify. You can't hurt someone else's feelings if it's on you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
but I think you also have to be so, and I think you brought this up when you talked about your process in your book that's coming out, and I cannot wait. I want one of the first copies, please.
You got it, babe.
Is that if you go back, we were just about to talk about that, to the most tense moment in the Cuban crisis.
Oh,
And a Russian of all people, no disrespect to the Russians, do not send me hate mail, but a Russian at a negotiating table with a standoff and stone-faced, men, tells a joke, and you did it so well in your TED Talk, so that may make people want to go back and watch that. But that's what broke
the tension.
it.
I mean, they were at a
tension.
stalemate. These people had the fate of the world in their hands, and it's like, are we going to be in nuclear Armageddon? And it's a stalemate. Nobody wants to move. And then this Russian tells a joke, and the tension dissipates, and the talks resume. And
we're all here today.
We're here today. We're here today. And
Yes.
so it is so powerful.
That's what I wanted to emphasize here, because people will hear humor and write their own story about comedy or comedian or funny, but they don't realize that there's a deeper power in connection. It makes people fall in love, even if they don't look like fashion models, because it makes more sense to be with someone who makes you feel good than somebody who looks good for a minute. And we all know it doesn't last. Those of you out there with your tight skin and your judgment, just wait. Just saying.
Just wait. Yeah.
But it's a beautiful. For me, I would think it would be a characteristic of my energy to want to make people feel good. And so that doesn't mean you have to tell jokes or get silly, but it does mean, what if you paid attention in such a way that made you so unique and so much fun to be around, that love flowed, that barriers were disseminated, and that connection was made. To me, that makes Karyn Buxman's new book, and Karyn Buxman, and all of your videos and all of your, by the way, leave it to you to come up with a COVID, what did you call it? A COVID emergency
my
kit?
COVID recovery toolkit.
How do we get one of those? Tell us how you did that, and then how to get one.
I have had so many requests over the past 6 months due to all of the trauma and drama going on. And I have been sending people, oh, let me send you this, let me send you that, and I wanted to just share with them what I'm doing for myself. And I decided one day, I'm just going to put all this together in one place. And so my COVID recovery toolkit.com makes it simple. And also it has a COVID recovery. It has a report card. You can grade yourself on how well you're really dealing with this, making it just a little bit more objective than maybe how you're thinking subjectively about it. It's got an infographic on how humor can help in terms of distraction, reframing, refueling, which is something you and I could go much deeper about as well. And then I've just put links up there to my go-tos, because one of the things that I encourage people to do is to have a backup. Humor will give you that respite, whether it's a micro break of 15 to 30 seconds to 20 to 30 minutes. It gives you that micro break, but you don't want to make your brain work for it, because our brains are lazy, even when they're not stressed. And so you don't want to have to work for it. You have it all in one place. And so I bookmark videos, and I bookmark memes, and I do that. And so I put all of these together on one page so that people could just go and have a break. Go find something there that works for you. And I'll be updating it if you say, oh, you've got to put this video up there, because people are constantly sending me things. Thank you very much, Karyn at KarynBuxman.com. Send me your funny videos, because you just shared one with me earlier, and it's like, I got to go watch that.
I have to tell you, I was just talking about that yesterday with a friend of mine, and somebody had sent us a silly one for Thanksgiving on it's called Turkey Recovery, but I said, here are my 3 go-tos. Now it would make more sense to me, again, relevance. I have 3 that I'll just watch just to laugh, and I've watched them thousands of times. It doesn't make any difference, because they're so delightful. And so we are our attention. And if you're paying attention to possibilities and contrasts, and you understand them, you can help other people do that, because you're more aware. But Karyn, I just have to tell you, First of all, Karyn, by the way, I want you to hear this, is spelled with a Y. It's Karyn. Karyn,
Karyn.
and Buxman is B as in baby, Uxman.
Yes.
And I would recommend that you definitely come back. I think we could do a whole series on this because I think people have to laugh a whole bunch.
Oh my gosh, Terry, this is a holistic approach. And, the high performers who really make it successfully and significantly recognize that you put your focus not just on your business and not just on the numbers, but you put it on your family, you put it on yourself, your health, your community, your education, all of these things. And so, your spirituality, it's all of these things combined. And so you and I have years of talks ahead of us.
Well, we do. I think at this point, leadership really points to people who don't take themselves too seriously. And clearly there, with the behavioral styles, there are people that are less reactive, but even when they tell something that is funny, it's very funny because it's out of character for their normal kind of behavior. So I would say that we need to have lots and lots of Karyn Buxman. Tell them if somebody wanted to hire you, because clearly right now, especially with not big travel, your availability might be easier virtually. And I know you are excellent at virtual. How would we find you? And is there any other, I know you have other books out there, but they're all on Amazon. Is that where they are?
Yeah, everything's on Amazon. Funny Means Money will be coming out 2021 through Forbes Books. And if you sign up for the COVID recovery toolkit, or you go to my website and sign up for some of the other prizes of unspeakable value that I have, I'll be sure to keep you updated as to when that's coming out. And I also like to send out, just a regular reminder to people. Again, I want to be your accountability partner because this is something that people know, but they don't do intentionally. And part of my ministry, so to speak, is to just help people remember, oh yeah, I haven't done that yet today. I haven't done that yet this week. And so I want people to do that. So they can go to my website, KarynBuxman.com. Also, they can find that under highperformancehumor.com. And I actually am now certified as a virtual presenter. So there you go. We needed more initials behind our names, right?
Whoa.
CSP,
listen,
CVP,
I know that
CPAE.
Yeah, we have the acronyms behind us. Well, here's the good news. Humor will never go out of style. People laughing will never change. So I am so delighted, and I know that we're going to have you and Greg Godek, Godek, on together for our power couples, and that together you guys are just, well, I just have to have more vitamins before we do that. But I want you to join us again, and I want everybody here to enjoy a good laugh. Please go to KarynBuxman.com and enjoy. Go to YouTube. She has some great stuff there, and you have to join us again. Thanks so much for joining us here on Women in Business. I'm Terry Murphy, Senior Editor for Realty Times Women in Business and the Women's Wisdom Network. Join us again sometime, and please go to our Facebook community page, Women's Wisdom Network Community Facebook page, and join us because I'm going to be posting Miss Karyn right there because we need another laugh.